Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Aries for June 2016. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, or click on the link below this video, and you can see more about my blog. And while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community and get perks that go along with that. So what's happening in the month of June? We've got these two convergences of heavy hitters. They're outer planets that when they come together, they bring major life-changing experiences, major themes of evolution. We've got not one, but two of those. One is a difficult angle with a square that I've got some advice to prepare for that and make the most of it. One is a trine that's like awesome and it's going to bring major things to fruition. And Mars is going direct at the end of the month, which is especially relevant for Aries because it's our ruling planet. I say ours because I have Aries rising, so everything in the Aries horoscope is always something personal for me, so I have a little extra understanding about it. So we're going to talk about those general transits later, but first I want to talk about something specific just for Aries with the personal planets and shorter term events where this concentration of energy is happening in the month of June, or the themes in this period of time. So let's start out with this focus on the third house. Early degree placements and some middle degree placements have this theme of third house energy coming very strong in June. A reminder about the early, middle, and later degree placements. Early degree placements are pretty much all the March born until about the 30th, or 0 degrees to 9 degrees if you're watching for your rising sign. The middle degree placements are like the 31st of March through April 9th, and then the 9 through 19 degrees if you're watching for your rising sign. Big plane. The late degree placements are from around April 10th through the end of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees if you're watching for your rising sign. I take the time to differentiate these because the chart of an early degree placement for the horoscope and the chart of a late degree placement look really different. And so I speak to that within the discussion. So it's like if you're waiting online for something, the people at the beginning of the line, they're going to get it first. That's like the early degree placements. The middle degree placements get it next, and the later degree placements get it last. So it's like staggered for timing. So when the early and some middle degree placements are working with something, the later degree placements are still in whatever the early and middle degrees had just been working with, okay? That's why I talk about it that way. Okay, so the third house, and this is where this concentration of energy is moving. The new moon is going to be there for early and some middle degree placements. Venus and the sun, followed soon by Mercury, is going to be focused in the third house. The third house has to do with mobility. It's the house of moving around, going here, going there, your car, things you use to move around, bikes, whatever it is. Your actual physical mobility, your capacity to move around is also in there. And it has to do with communication. So anything you use to communicate, your voice, your devices, all of these things are in the third house designation. This also rules your siblings, relatives, cousins, aunts, uncles, etc. that are not your parents or kids are in there, so things could be related to them. And the third house has to do with writing and publishing and editing and sharing of information. There's also some social contexts here. So interacting, it's one of the house of friends and people interacting in a social setting. So it's really busy. So you'll find that in this period of time, or coming soon for the rest of you, you're really busy. You have friends coming, you're traveling around, you might even be on trips, and it's just like a busy time. Gemini energy is like all over the place, so it might bring this scattered all over the place information and things coming from everywhere. Some of you might be getting word of new devices or new cars. If you can avoid buying those things until July, you'll be better off, but I understand that sometimes you just can't. And if you have to buy a car or a device, try to at least get your warranties, keep all your paperwork in one place where you can find it, read all the fine print, etc. Because that might come into necessity at some point in the future. You just want to cover all bases if you have to buy it, because Mars is still retrograde in June, and Mars rules devices and vehicles because Mars rules metal, and those things are metal. So you want to just take that into consideration if you can. But you might get word about, hey, this is coming to you, or you are accepted for a loan to buy a car. You could start doing research, things like that. The rest of the middle degree placements and late degree placements are going to have strong focus in the second house. And really, even the early degree placements, you're going to have some of this. It's not going to be as strong as for the rest of the middle and later degree placements, but you will have Mercury moving through there. But the rest of the middle and later degree placements will have the new moon, the sun, Venus, eventually Mercury in the second house of finances. And this new moon, is very exciting to have a new moon in your second house. The new moon happens on June 4th at 14 degrees of Gemini. So if you have any planets that are from like 9 degrees through 19 degrees of Gemini, or if your birthday is from like the 15th through the end of the year, this new moon is going to carry even more significance for you because of the way that it aspects those planets. 14 degrees of Gemini, Gemini is in a nice angle to Aries energy. It makes a 60-degree angle. So it will further enhance things for you if you're in that time period or within those degrees. So the second house has to do with your finances. Some of you are just going to straight up have more earning potential. You'll have another line of income or more streams of income. Some of you might have something that tells you your money is coming. Like you do something and now you don't see the changes yet, but they're coming soon. It's like showing you how the story is going to go. I remember after my real estate empire went down with the market crash in 2008, at that time I was doing this type of work, astrology, and helping people with things like this, but it wasn't my main income and I didn't have to make any money from it. It wasn't my job. And I had a plan to be able to make this be what I do all the time and not have to do anything other than what I was really excited about. And at that time, money wasn't really coming in very much from it. And my mother would say, you have to get a job. And I would say, I have a job. She'd say, well, you don't really make that much money. And I'd say, just wait. Because I could feel that doing what I was doing and being consistent, it was going to turn into what I thought it would. And it did. My mom never says that anymore. And this is this energy of the second house where even if you're not seeing the income stream come in the month of June or in the month of July, something could be happening where you make some different changes, you make some different decisions, you take up a course of study, you make an investment, or you do something where you can see that if you follow that along in the future, your money is going to come from it. There's something else important about the second house to note, which has to do with value. One way to have more abundance is to make more money. Another way of having abundance is to need less. There is this massive movement in simplicity that is going on for many people. Some people are the opposite of that and they're moving more into materialism. But many people are just really sick of the whole consumer attitude, way of life, sick of having to work so many hours just to pay for things and have things and manage the things and then go back to work. So if you can probably work less if you need more. If you need less. You can work less if you need less. That's what I was trying to say. And that's in this second house. So if you figure out some ways to need less, you might be able to work less. Something else, another way that this could come up, has to do with managing your work more efficiently. And I had my world blown by a book. It's called The 4-Hour Work Week. And this guy is so cool. Timothy Ferriss. I just love him. He's my new best friend. So I don't work only 4 hours a week at this point in my life, but Aries tends to be ambitious, and because I help people plow through obstacles and things that they think are impossible and getting to things that seemed impossible, I like to do that. I like to see something and think, wow, that's impossible, and then do it. Okay, and Aries, that's something that we're really good at. There's like a fire that says, well, that's impossible. Okay, well, I'm just going to do that then. So right now, at this point in time, it seems like it's a little crazy to think that I could have a 4-hour work week. But you know what? I'm going to do that. And maybe it'll take a little time, but I'm going to do it. And this has very much to do with this second house that's being activated here. Because if you are more efficient with your work, you can work less. He gives an example in the book about how he would do his cold calls for a sales job he had between 8 and 9 and 5 and 6. And he'd get more done in those 2 hours than in the 9 to 5. Because why? If you're in sales, you know that there's a gatekeeper. There's a person who blocks the person you're trying to get a hold of. And when do they work? They work from 9 to 5. So if you contact in between the hours where that person isn't there, then you're going to be able to have a better chance at getting not the gatekeeper who is blocking you. So he did this very successfully. And anyway, he has a lot of crazy stories about things that he's done. But it's like thinking about it that way. So now instead of working 8 hours, he worked 2 hours and actually had better sales. So if you take that line of thinking, which he's a master of, and apply it to your life, there's no reason why you can't work less and make more, right? And help more people and do more for the world, whatever your missions are. So this revolution that's going on with this second house energy is very pronounced for Aries in a short-term way and in a long-term way. This aspect with Jupiter and Pluto that I'll talk about in great detail later has a lot to do with this fame and recognition. It also has a lot to do with health. The full moon in Sagittarius, okay, so the new moon was at 14 degrees on June 4th. Early degree placements are going to experience some of that energy in the third house. Middle to late, the rest of the middle to late is in the second house, but strong second house energy for everyone. The full moon is at 29 degrees of Sag on June 20th. The early degree placements are, very early degree placements are experiencing that in the 10th house. The rest of you will be experiencing this in the 9th house. But this story about recognition is strong in the long term because most Aries have Pluto in the 10th house. So anytime anything comes and aspects Pluto, it's waking up your career, work, and life purpose. So Jupiter, which is the best possible thing we could have make a nice aspect there because it brings expansion, that's part of this story of fame, and Jupiter is in Virgo. So that's bringing this major piece in about health, but I'll go into more details about that. So specifically the full moon, earlier degree placements have this short-term energy with recognition in the 10th house, career, work, and life purpose. So you could get acknowledged for something. It increases the odds that something you've been working on comes to fruition and someone is like, hey, look what you've been doing. I see that. And it happens to be someone who can advance you in some ways. They notice. The 9th house, if you are a person that has anything involving spiritual studies, religious studies, the international connections, different countries, different cultures, different languages, teaching or learning in any way, if that is, or publishing or writing or bringing information out to the world, if that is your work, then you have extra energy around this full moon bringing in something great for you, which is also timed with this Jupiter-Pluto trine. I call the theme of the month of June, the heavy hitters converge, because outer planets, when they're locked together in a meaningful geometric combination, are like the heavy hitters. Whenever we have an aspect of an outer planet, meaning the ones that take longer to go around, like Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, or if you're looking at asteroids, Chiron, etc., these planets take a long time to get around. So when they make an aspect, especially to another outer planet that takes a long time to move around their orbits, their influences last for a longer period of time than the ones with the personal planets, unless of course there's a personal planet being retrograde, that's different. But as far as an actual aspect occurring within personal planets, you might feel those effects for a couple of days. But the story of outer planets getting together, that tells a story over a long period of time. It makes me think of when I was growing up in New York City. When I was a little kid, I was a baseball fanatic. I was quite a tomboy, and me and my little friends would obsess over baseball, and we'd watch it with my dad, and we would just get so excited when the guys who would be the ones that would hit the ball out of the park regularly would come up to bat. We called them the heavy hitters. And you didn't know if this was going to be a time they were going to hit a home run, but the odds were more likely that they were going to hit a home run than anybody else. Everyone was just, waiting with excited anticipation, especially if there are men on base, And that's the energy of June as it relates to the heavy hitters in the cosmos, because we have two convergences of heavy hitters. The first one is between Saturn in Sagittarius and Neptune in Pisces. Now, this aspect is a square. A square is known to be a challenging aspect. I don't want you to fear squares, however, because sometimes it's a square that we need, or a point of conflict that we need to crack open something up to another level, It's like it's a point of conflict that from it, you can completely improve your life and your life experience. All transits, especially the challenging ones, show weak spots. So this transit will be no exception. Saturn in Sagittarius and Neptune in Pisces in a square, this happened in the beginning part of this cycle. It was the last days of November 2015 through like December 4th of 2015. So the end of November, beginning of December of 2015 is when this happened first. It happens now for the second time, June 5th through June 18th, with the strongest point being on June 18th, but very strong for that whole time. And you'll feel it before those dates and after. It's a long-term story. And it's a theme that's following from the end of last year into this year, and it reaches its culmination like the end of August 30th through around September 21st of 2016. So over the course of the year, from the end of 2015 through almost the end of 2016, there's been this point of conflict. And so themes that came up at that point very likely will either come up again if they hadn't been resolved, or related themes will come up, or maybe different manifestations. But many, many people are going to have this issue come up in the form of security. And many people will have it in the form of internet security. When Neptune, the energy of Neptune and Pisces is very much behind the scenes. It's private stuff. So things that you want to be private, with Saturn coming and making this square to Neptune, they might not be private anymore. So I always post these horoscopes at least a month and sometimes more early, so that you can have a heads up for what's coming, so that you can take action. So one of the places that I recommend that you take action here is around this square, and it's around security. So I think it's a wonderful idea for you to change your passwords, to add whatever steps you can to beef up the security, to have a professional do a security check even, or research ways that, if you don't have the money to do that, research ways to beef up your internet security. Be careful of the things you post on Facebook and social media. Just have a new level of awareness of apps and how people are gathering information about you and your what you're doing on the internet, things like that. This could also be home security or work security, or anything having to do with things that you want to be private that might not be completely secured. So you want to try to go through between the time you listen to this and then, and strengthen as many of these weak links as possible. That's a really good use of the energy. There are also likely to be a lot of conflicts or things that come up regarding fear and faith. And so here are some questions to ask that can lead you down a good path with using this energy in the best way. One is and this is kind of along the lines of what I was talking about with security, but where are you putting your trust? And is that well placed? And that can be having nothing to do with internet security. It could be in relationships. It could be with, who knows, whatever. Ask the question, where are you placing your trust? And maybe it's not the best place to place it. Where could you place more trust and you're not? There's also a very major spiritual component to this, because trusting in the benevolent source and clearing up any issues you have with your connection to the divine could be what's coming up here for many people. So maybe you're placing your trust in things that are changeable and movable in the third dimensional reality. And we all know that those things are change and or always changing. But the connection with the divine is something that isn't changing. So spiritual revolution could occur from this transit for many. Where are your boundaries? Are they secure? Should they be more secure in certain places? And should they be less secure in certain places? Sometimes we're putting up walls in places where we really want something to come in, you know? So this square can bring up all of those things. If you want more love to come into your life, if you want more money to come into your life, figuring out where you're putting up blocks to receiving those things is going to be relevant for many people. Of course, I always love suggesting inner work because sometimes this boundary setting thing is not in our conscious control. It's very much in our unconscious program. And the only way that you can really get at those unconscious programs is by working on the unconscious level. One of the books that I talk about all the time that works very well for helping you to set healthy boundaries in places where you need them and take some extra walls away in places where you're trying to bring more in is a book called The Presence Process by Michael Brown. It's masterful for that. So you can look to see where your boundaries need to be bolstered and where you need to be a little bit more lax in certain places, things like that. It's like the showdown between reality and illusion, you know, and form and formlessness. So all the many ways that those conflicts can come up, this story has been brought up at the end of last year for special focus, and the story is getting stronger now, and it will reach its culmination at the end of August into September. So the next major convergence of heavy hitters we have, and this one I'm all smiles about, even though you know I'm going to make lemonade out of the challenging one and tell you how you can make the most of it, when there's a really great aspect like a trine, like this second convergence, which is between Jupiter in Virgo and Pluto in Capricorn, I'm going to be really excited about that. So Jupiter in Virgo is very much about everything Virgo, expanding everything Virgo. And Virgo has to do with your health, your diet, your regimen, yoga, meditation, medical diagnostics. Many people have had major enigmatic health stories, and they're trying to, like a super detective, get to the bottom of what is happening with their health. And Pluto is the best ally in this because Pluto goes deep into research. Pluto rules research. And Pluto in Capricorn is very practical. So having this trine, which is strongest between June 23rd and June 30th, and again, there's a story with this. It started in mid-October 2015. It happened the second time mid-March 2016. And now it reaches its culmination with this aspect at the end of June. So many people who have been on a wild health journey, you might have some massively good news, or at least massively enlightening news that can then put you in the direction for better health. Many people are going to see movement forward in the arena of health or diet or anything like that. If you are a person who has MS, autoimmune, any other kind of autoimmune things, inflammatory based problems, colitis, anything involving inflammation, problems with your skin, anything that just seems like whatever you're doing to it, you're not hitting it at all. There's a couple of resources I'm going to recommend for your journey. One is a book called Medical Medium. Medical Medium is a Hay House book, and I'll put it in the link below this video. And it is very interesting. It's very different, and maybe some of you won't resonate with it, but many more people are going to have a lot of answers come here. But he's basically talking about how many of the things that are plagues for our time, from the health perspective, are actually based in virus. And I know that research that I've seen about cancer, they're finding more and more cancers are linked to viruses. So this isn't really very surprising, or metaphysical for that matter, even though the person who brings it is a medium, between worlds. The information is very much based in science from what I've been researching myself. So there could be a viral component to the things that you think are not virally based, and by treating it, you could all of a sudden heal from something that you're not supposed to heal from. Now, of course, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm offering a resource that could change your life. So check out Medical Medium, Hay House. And another idea is to get some genetic testing. If you've had a lot of problems, you could narrow down your specific issues by having some genetic testing. A basic genetic test that will give you a lot of information and is not as expensive as some of the other ones is called 23andMe. It's the number 23andMe. And this will let you know if you have certain parts of your liver function that don't work, which would create all these other problems. If you have certain liver pathway problems, etc., or other things that could be relevant to your health. There's someone else that I'm going to recommend. His name, and I'll put all of these links underneath this video, and is a man, his name is Gino, and he is a friend of mine who is very gifted with understanding how science and physiology work, and he has helped many people heal from things that were considered terminal. So if you look up genospassion.com, or I think it's .com, or I'll put the link below here. Maybe Gino can assist you with your particular situation. He likes to work along with your doctor to see your blood tests and things like that. So many people are going to have good news or breakthroughs along those fronts, and maybe some of these resources will be part of that. What's very exciting about this transit is that it's reaching its culmination at this point. You know, the previous transit we talked about, we're kind of still in the middle of that story, but this one is reaching this conclusion, and it's such a wonderful aspect. So other things that could come up here are things involving pets or animals, since Virgo rules those areas. Also involving your quality of work experience or daily experience. Virgo rules what you do every day, what your experience is like every day. So when you have Jupiter in Virgo, it's working on trying to make improvements in your day-to-day schedule. So if you look at your life and you say, oh God, I need to work less, Jupiter in Virgo can help you with that. If you're like, oh gosh, I don't have a job, I need to work more, Jupiter can help you with that. Whatever your subjective experience of improvement of your daily schedule is, Jupiter is working really hard to help you with that. And as of the time it went direct in May, those things started lighting up again. And now when it reaches this culmination of this, activation with Pluto in Capricorn at the end of June, you could see some major improvements in your work-life balance, whatever you've got going on in your daily schedule. So that's really exciting. Also, many people will experience this trine with Jupiter and Pluto as bringing them advancements on the fronts of work, career, and life purpose. Because Pluto being in Capricorn rules work, career, and life purpose. So Jupiter being in a great angle there can help to accentuate, unblock, free, synergize, bring great juju to your work and career and life purpose areas of life. So that's another way that you might see this trine story reach a culmination at the end of June. Third piece that is very relevant is that on June 29th, Mars is going direct. If you've been listening to my reports for a while, I've been talking about Mars in its pre-shadow retrograde, in its retrograde, and now on June 29th, Mars finally goes direct. It has a pretty long shadow period on the back end. It will be in the post-shadow period until August 21st. But with every day that marches on past June 29th, you're getting more and more clear of it. So if you've got to launch something, do something new, if you've been waiting, July is your month to do that, and the first little bit of August, because then we're going to get into Mercury shadow again, and it's not going to be the time to launch things. There will be some even better stars for launching in the last 3 weeks of October and all of November and the first couple of days of December. That period of time at the end of the year is actually the most open than any we've had this entire year of 2016, because the other period we had, like February, March, and then this one in July into the beginning of August, those all have some influence of shadow of retrogrades of personal planets, even though there's some workable ground. So if you're not quite ready to launch, or something, you really want to have all the personal planets clear, maybe you'll want to lean towards that second window, but you'll just have to feel it out, because I don't know what your personal chart looks like, and sometimes personal chart aspects can supersede what the general stars are. So if you want some help with that, anything as far as perfect astrological timing or navigating through making the most of the transits, you can go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. You can check out my growing list of blogs there to assist you. You can check out my personal coaching. You can look for my Unleash Your Money Magnet program to help you unleash your money magnet. If you go to anniehelpsyou.com and then click on programs, you'll see Unleash Your Money Magnet. You'll see my Creating Successful Online Business course that will be enrolling in July. You'll see my Astrology Apprenticeship program, which will be enrolling in July. And you'll see my Shine program, which is a 28-day virtual coaching program, which helps you to make the most of the starry potentials by clearing out your inner blocks. And while you're there, definitely sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community and get all kinds of cool opportunities and information that come along with being in that group. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.